State lawmakers debating today on who should be allowed to drive in the state.
If passed, Omaha Senator Bob Anderson's bill would invalidate driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. Well, state law already prohibits illegal immigrants from getting a driver's license. It requires applicants to provide proof of lawful status. This bill would tighten restrictions while preserving some exemptions like active duty military, full-time students, and temporary agricultural workers. During his testimony this afternoon, Senator Anderson mentioned several undocumented CDL drivers being arrested in other states. Opponents, though, have concerns. They point out the bill does not include how the law would even be enforced.
The risk that we see is that you're going to have a lot of prolonged detention of people who have out-of-state license if law enforcement tries to enforce this law somehow. It's going to lead to racial profiling. It's going to lead to a lot of arbitrary and selective enforcement.
If someone is pulled over and found to be operating under such a license, they'll be subject to the current penalty. The bill makes no distinction between a license that declares the lack of lawful presence and ones that do not. Illegal is illegal.
Nebraska's driver's license compact was also brought up. In short, it's an interstate agreement that recognizes other states' driver's licenses. The ACLU worries this could create legal ambiguity by refusing to accept a license from another state. Bill's in committee. It has not yet made it to the Unicam floor.